Good morning, Congressman Kennedy. Welcome to the special edition on coronavirus on Telebeltalk. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All right, the small business, are the engine of the American economy, and small business owners are complaining about the PPP right now, and they're not getting the money. What's going on?
A couple of challenges. First off is that Congress still has not given small businesses enough money. So the initial round of funding, about $350 billion, expired in literally a matter of days, given the crushing demand for that assistance for small businesses. Congress then last week was able to approve more money to the tune of about $370 billion in addition to a number of different programs. That, by the time we approved it on last Thursday, and it became available for banks to start lending on Monday, it was estimated that would last only a series of days before the funding would run out again. And so part of the challenge there is small businesses are in such need that there is such demand for those funds that there ends up being such a long queue, a line for businesses to line up to request that money. That just creates a big traffic jam. And then businesses that didn't get the money in the first round and might not get it in the second round, that they're forced to wait literally weeks, if not months, for that money to finally get delivered. So that's one big problem. And that shouldn't happen. That can't happen. And Congress has to be bigger and bolder with regards to its assistance to small businesses. The second big challenge that we've got is that in the administration of these programs, it's hard to get $350 billion or now nearly $650 billion or even $1 trillion out the door to small businesses quickly, right? Even if as this program is designed to go from the federal government down to local community banks so that those banks can get the money out as quickly as they can, that's still, you talk to those banks, they're overloaded, they're getting crushed. And that creates also additional roadblocks in order for individuals to get access to that assistance. And then the final challenge is that there's folks that are abusing that system. There are over 70 public companies that received funding. That shouldn't have happened. There's reports of companies that just filed legal settlements with the Department of Justice to settle potential legal malfeasance cases that got and paid fines that just got money from the federal government, from the U.S. taxpayers. There's reports out there of companies that paid their executives millions of dollars and then turned around and asked for millions of dollars from taxpayers. So that you and I are literally subsidizing that millionaire CEO's salary. That shouldn't happen. So there's got to be far greater oversight and far greater accounting of which companies are getting this and what they're doing with the money.
Okay, if Congress watching the way the money are giving to the businesses, because you see the LA Lakers receive some money, they return the money. Shake Shack, they receive some money, they return the money. Are we going to be monitoring everything to make sure everything go properly for the small business owner?
There has to be more has to be done here without question. And that's one of the challenges that we've got at the moment with Congress not being able to meet in Washington, D.C. and to conduct the traditional oversight that we would. 100%, that's an additional challenge. And remember, this is coming from an administration that wanted an additional $400 billion. I think it was initially actually $500 billion what they asked for, to be doled out to businesses at the discretion of the Secretary of Treasury, with no oversight, no requirements, no nothing, just whoever and whatever businesses he thought needed money, they should get. Now, no doubt there's going to be need for some big businesses and industries to get financial support. Fine, that shouldn't be at the discretion of whoever happens to occupy any particular position. That's not the way government works. That's not the way public financing should work. So there's going to have to be far more robust measures put in place. And I think Congress has to be going through this with a fine-tooth comb.
Let's switch gear right now. I saw on your Facebook you're promoting mail-in voting. This morning on WBZ, the report you are cheering for it. Why?
Because people deserve the right to vote. Because that's codified in this country and it's supposed to be from our very founding. And the bottom line is that we still put up significant roadblocks for individuals to be able to get access to their vote. And that becomes all the more serious in the midst of a pandemic. Look, all of us hope that we are slowly making progress against this virus, but nobody can tell us what exactly the circumstances are going to be come September when a Democratic primary takes place, or when our primary processes take place on September 1st, or in November for a general election. No one has any idea how far we're going to be through this, if there's another flare-up, what exactly our society is going to look like. And so if we don't put in place measures to ensure that everybody gets access to the ballot now, you're rolling the dice to have a second coming of what we saw in Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago, which was where Republicans forced an election take place over the objection of public health officials and a Democratic governor, where in the city of Milwaukee, where there was normally 180 different polling locations, there were 5 because they couldn't find poll workers that were able to ensure their safety and their health, that you had lines that were obviously down the block and around the corner. There's reports of 36 people contracting coronavirus while trying to wait in line to be able to exercise their rights to vote, and force people to choose between their health and their democracy. We don't have to do that. And one great way to do that, to protect against it, is to ensure that people can actually vote without having to go out in public, where you get mailed the ballot, you fill out the ballot, you drop it in the mail, and it gets counted. And so there are a number of states that do robust vote-by-mail programs. Colorado probably leads the way here, where registered voters get mailed the ballot, you fill it out, you mail it back. We can do that. There's no reason why Massachusetts can't, and that's what we're advocating.
Okay. The president been very critical about mail voting, but he used it for himself in Florida. What's your input on that?
Okay, the president criticizes an awful lot of things without a whole lot of evidence, and this is another example of it. There is the incidence of voter irregularities when it comes to mail-in voting are very, very small. As you said, he uses vote by mail himself. I'd also point out that if you listen to actually what he's saying, it's an extraordinary example of voter suppression, whereby we're saying, look, rather than institute a robust vote by mail program, one that he in fact actually uses, we're going to roll the dice and then know that there's going to be millions of people across our country, tens of millions, that aren't going to be able to vote, that just aren't going to be able to get out to the polls that day, that might be sick, that aren't going to be able to risk their lives to strengthen their democracy. And so to force Americans to do that is going to be one of the greatest examples of voter suppression in American history. We're better than that. We don't have to do that. And I truly don't think this is a partisan issue. This is something where Democrats and Republicans and anybody else should say, hey, we want people to be able to vote. Let's put in place the measures to do so safely and accurately.
Now, let's talk about some states, how we open right now. We have the state of Georgia, Texas will be opening. Do you think the governors of those states were too far by opening the state?
I think that
too fast.
I think when it comes to reopening, I think we have to let science guide the way. Mm-hmm. And the concern that I have with regards to reopening is that political concerns are getting in the way of science. And look, I want to reopen. Everybody wants to reopen. I would love to go out to dinner with my family. I'd love to be able to take them out to, I got 2 little kids. I'd love to go to the museum. I'd love to take them out and go to a playground. And so you'll probably hear them in the background in a second. You would have heard them say, if we had started this 5 minutes earlier, you certainly would have heard them. So everybody wants to do this. The question is, how do we do so without, one, compromising the health and safety of our neighbors and our fellow Americans, and 2, how do you do this without risking a greater economic backlash? Because you reopen, you could see an increased number of infections, and economies, people just won't go out, and you actually face this major double dip because people aren't going to be willing to go out and spend money. And so one of the biggest obstacles to this is testing. What you need to be able to do to ensure that we open appropriately is, as people interact more and as cases do start to tick up, because that is expected, that we are able to identify those individuals, that we are able to conduct the contact tracing that is necessary to say, hey, Joe went out, Joe got sick, where was he, who was he next to, who was he near? Can we make sure that those folks engage in quarantine so we can actually stop the spread of this virus as we open up again? The contact tracing mechanisms, no state is ready for that. And so what you're essentially doing is rolling the dice, hoping that this won't happen. And I hope it doesn't happen either. But man, that's a big risk to take.
We have more than 50,000 people died in the U.S. from the pandemic, and more than 1 million people infected. What do you think needs to be done for the American people, for healthcare to be more accessible for the American people?
I'm sorry, there was a glitch in the thing. What is that? What do we do for the people that have died?
No, I think what needs to be done for the healthcare to be more accessible to the American people.
Yes, I'm sorry. We have lost more people to coronavirus than died in Vietnam. We have over 1 million cases in the United States alone. This is not only a pandemic and a public health emergency, this is a national tragedy. And what it has shown more than anything is the need for quality, accessible, universal healthcare, right? Because your health is linked to mine and my health is linked to yours. That conversation we just had, I'm not going to feel comfortable going out, going to the movies, going to a restaurant, going to a museum, going to any real place with other individuals without knowing that I can count on the fact that they've got access to healthcare, so that if they were sick, they could get treated, and that they know that I could too. And so this better be a clarion call to ensure that everybody gets not just access to testing, but access to treatment, access to quality, affordable healthcare that every single American deserves. And that will certainly be my rallying cry going forward, as it has been for an awfully long time.
Thank you, Congressman Kennedy. What's the word for the people of the Bay State? The last word.
Look, stay healthy, stay safe, everybody. We're going to get through this. I've been so inspired and amazed the way in which people have been taking care of each other and rooting for each other and coming together through this. We're getting there, but we need a little bit longer. So hang in there.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks. Be well.